Good afternoon, dear participants. You are welcome to the 15th webinar of the EDB. Today's topic is the financial literacy for exporters at economic recession. Why this is important for us today? We believe this topic is timely because the country is focusing on exports. All we have SME sector, exporters really need this knowledge of financial literacy to make their financial decisions, business decisions, and moving forward with better results. So the EDB, as a country's premier export facilitation and promotion body, we have some ambitious targets to achieve better export the income to the country for the betterment of the national economy. So because of this important topic, we have today an eminent, prominent the character in the country. He is Professor H.D. Karunaratne from University of Colombo. The Senior Professor Karunaratne has been serving at the Department of Business Economics, Faculty of Management and Finance, University of Colombo during the last 30 years, and currently serving as the coordinator for Doctor of Business Administration degree program conducted by the same university, and he is the coordinator of the Business and Entrepreneurship Research Center of the Colombo University. And he was the Japan Foundation Fellow at the University of Tokyo, Japan in 16 and 17. And he served as the invited professor and as the director of Osei University, Tokyo, for a period of 3 years. And in addition, Professor Karunaratne serves as the chairman of the Institute of Policy Studies, commonly known as the IPS, Sri Lanka. And we have a lengthy the introduction, but we summarize it into very short, as the professor is a well-known personality in Sri Lanka. So, dear participants, before starting the presentation of Professor Karunaratne, I like to invite you to join to the Q&A session. You can type your questions in the Q&A session icon in the bottom of your screen, and we pick the relevant questions and forward to the professor for answering after his presentation. And now I invite Professor Karunaratne to start his session. Professor, we cannot hear you.
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. Right. So good afternoon to everyone. Delighted to participate for EDB seminar. Export Development Board is the most important export promoter in Sri Lanka. So they invited me to discuss financial literacy for exporters at economic recession today. So I hope we all are in a very important situation in Sri Lanka. I'll try to first share my PowerPoint slides. I hope that you can see my PowerPoint slides. What we are going to discuss today is financial literacy for exporters at economic recession. We know that literacy is one of the important component in our life, because literacy allow us to go for a prosperous life. What do you mean by literacy? I think if I ask this question, if I ask you, are you literate? Sometimes you might get angry with me because people believe that is kind of an insultation. Because the definition of literacy is different. Usually, our general understanding, the meaning of literacy means ability to read and write in our mother tongue. But it has changed during last century. Now, of course, people see whether there are 4 components with you to call as literate person. Number 1 is that, of course, we should be able to communicate in international language, either English or country where you deal with your exports. So therefore, you better try to grab the language, the foreign language abilities. Number 2 is very important to go for ICT literacy. ICT means, you know, information communication literacy, where now we are practicing actually. So this kind of webinar or the internet logging is kind of a part of ICT literacy. And number 3 is what I am talking today is the financial literacy. Financial literacy means that you can see your ability to understand properly the financial instruments and use your finance to grow with finance, and how you sustain with the financial abilities. Your sustainability in finance is very, very important rather than depending on others' money. So how you use your money to be prosper and say that I'm financially independent. So to that level, how you use your financial management. I will come to this point later. And the 4th important point is that you need to have innovations and value addition and to do something in your life. So better we define our 3rd component where we want to discuss today in detail what is financial literacy. So among these 4 skills of literacy, 4 areas of literacy, financial literacy is one of the most important thing to reach a level of very high income, or the rich people, in other words, financially literate, the poor people financially not literate. That's why you see, you might have heard that the world richest person says that definitely financial literacy is very important. You can born as a poor person, but if you die as a poor person, that is your fault, because during the life you have not understand what is money, how to use money, how you grow with the money, how you tackle each and every problem to prosper your wealth. So financial literacy is the ability to understand and properly apply financial management skills. Effective financial planning is one of the important things, and properly managing debt, accurate calculating interest rate, understanding time value of money are characteristics of being financially literate. If I ask you a simple question, right? If you keep 100,000 in a bank, at the end of the year, how much you will get? If you deposit, even a fixed deposit, if you keep 100,000 in a bank, at the end of the year, how much you will have? What is your answer? Somebody will say very quickly, someone will say that just add the interest rate. So if the interest rate is 5%, so a value of my 100,000 will be 105,000. You are wrong. You are wrong. Actually, in my calculation, if you deposit your money 100,000 today in a Sri Lankan bank, at the end of the year, you are getting only 96,000. 96,000. Why I say? Because your financial literacy challenging. What is financial literacy? When you calculate your total wealth after a particular year, the most important thing, you know, inflation rate, the prices going up. Now, if you check the last month, the prices went up by 6.3%. Let's say 6%. But the interest rate is 5%. Then, of course, 1% you are losing. So, in that case, but apart from that, you should be able to think about what will happen to exchange rate, how the exchange rate devaluation. As an exporter, you will get more prosper, but if the exchange rate revalue, you are going to lose. So all the time when you are doing exports, you have to think about the exchange rate between that country money and the Sri Lankan money. So not only exchange rate, going beyond that, you have to think about government taxes on your profit or savings, or particularly your financial assets. So assume now, as a small business holder, you have to keep your money in a current account as well, not only in the fixed account. Then what will happen to the value of the money you are going to keep in the current account at the end of the year? So which means a real life you are going to lose if you don't think about all these variables. So therefore, what do you mean by financial literacy? Not just about the rupee value of your asset. Apart from the rupee value, you have to adjust interest rate, you have to adjust tax rate, you have to adjust your financial wealth with the inflation rate. And there are some other predictions as well. So therefore, as a business owner, entrepreneur, or potential entrepreneur, potential business owner, what I am going to ask you, effective financial planning is very, very important. Effective financial planning is very, very important, and properly managing debt. You know, in the case of Sri Lanka also same, and you also, if you take the loan, you have to use it for properly productive manner rather than unproductive manner. If you use the loan as unproductive manner, then what will happen? You will be indebted. So debt management becoming a serious issue. Accurate calculating interest rate, understanding the time value of money from 1 month to another month. What is the inflation rate? What is the tax rate changes? Everything we need to consider, and understanding the characteristics being financially literate. And the primary principles of financial literacy include learning how to budget, so how to prepare a budget in well advance, and track spending, and effectively pay off debt, how you pay your debt effectively, and properly plan for the retirement. The retirement planning is very important, because you see in Sri Lanka that most of the people believe government should look after their retirement life. But for that, still we are in developing country, so we cannot have still pension for all concept. But therefore, you need to think about after retirement how you are going to have your financial wealth. Financial literacy contributes to people making poor financial decisions. If they make poor financial decisions, and they become victims of abusive financial practices. So therefore, we have to understand, we have to keep in a record all the time, because you know, in any business organization, they have a financial department, accounting department, but many people, even sometimes head of the accounting department does not keep his personal financing. If personal financing we are not recording, if we are not predicting, if we are not planning our personal financing, we will never be rich. We will never be rich. So why I say that? Because rich and poor think in two different ways about the money. So fundamentals of personal financing usually align with three major areas. One is budgeting. How do you budget? Are you really aware of all the informations, record all the informations as budgeting, and track spending in the budget, as well as establishing emergency fund. Any organization, any entrepreneur must have an emergency fund, or you have to have at least insurance for your business. And the last is, as I told you, the understanding on interest rate changes, inflation rate changes, exchange rate changes, predictions, last 10 years, last 5 years, how these things happen. You need to get your understanding. So those are called fundamentals of financial literacy. Actually, the financial literacy and normal literacy. Now you see this is a graph where it shows in the world how the printing literacy. Print literacy means that the people can read and write. But financial literacy is in here the blue color. Adult financial literacy is in blue color, and adult print literacy is in red color. What does it mean? The difference is in the other side. So different countries you can see, particularly here the LK, the Sri Lanka, and of course the gap between the printing literacy and of course sometimes you may say that business owner, entrepreneur might not have gone to high school, but he's a rich person because he is practicing his financial skills rather than having even a PhD degree or higher degree. If he is not practicing financial literacy, he cannot be a rich person. So that this red color shows our usual going into school, going into good school, good university, and get more education. But the issue is that how we be rich. So that is very, very important. That is not because of the degree you somebody earned from a university, not because of the higher education or the professionalism, but because of practicing financial literacy. Financial planning, proper management is very, very important. You have to rethink about your financial literacy. I said you about the poor people and rich people. What is the difference between poor person and rich person? Poor people are having only one source of income, where they try to depend on government salary, or they try to depend on one income source. But on the other hand, rich person's income is not only salary, but also investment, business opportunities, earnings. There are many things. And on the other hand, expenditure. The poor people expenditure is very complicated. They spend on lavishly many things. But the rich people, they don't spend as poor people. So therefore, they have a financial discipline, financial literacy. If you have financial literacy, your expenditure pattern become very disciplined one. The poor people, why they are poor? Because not because of their income is insufficient, but their expenditure pattern is more or widely they are using for differentiated expenditure pattern. Now, keeping the importance of financial literacy in our mind, let's go where we are now. The Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is now in economic crisis situation, economic recession situation. Why I say that, you can see in the first quarter of 2020, which means from January to March of Sri Lanka, the economic growth, the total production increase is minus 1.6%. According to the Department of Census and Statistics, it says that our GDP, first quarter, GDP means gross domestic production, total production in the country, was negative, 1.6% growth in the first quarter. And of course, we know what is economic, you can say economic recession. We are in there. The agriculture sector growth, of course, minus 5.6% during that period, and industrial sector growth was minus 7.8. Services sector was plus 3.1. And as a result, you can see the average 1.6 minus figure we get. Then apart from that, I told you inflation rate, the price is going up by 6.3% in Sri Lanka. If your income has not gone, if your financial value has not gone by 6.3% in the first quarter, you are actually losing. Then, of course, we know unemployment rate is increasing. That is why we call basically we are in an economic crisis. Actually, very recent statistics given by the World Bank estimations that the Sri Lanka this year will record, you can see from the bottom, the second, this year Sri Lanka will record minus 6.1%. But of course, our central bank doesn't agree that. They say it will come to 0 point, because if we do in this month and this quarter and next quarter very well, we will be able to eliminate that. That depends on our effort in the second quarter and third quarter and the fourth quarter. What is economic crisis? What is economic crisis? That I would like to explain with you. That, you know, any country, usually production behaves like this purple color circle flow. Sometimes real production, level of real production increases. Some periods it's coming down. I showed you earlier 2020 first quarter minus 1.6 means we are here. And again, when if it is good, we are moving here. Then if the economy functioning very well, we will reach the peak. So what is the circle all the time we are having? We are in a peak, then moving as down as recession we call, recession. Then trough means the bottom. When the economy coming to bottom, there are various bottoms I will show you. Then again the expansion happens, reach the peak. So like this is a circle. This circle in economics is called business cycle. Business cycle means the real production going up, going down. That is a natural situation. You know that usually in some religions like Buddhism teach us that there is a all the time circle, good, bad, everything can happen. So similarly in economy, total production in your factory, all factories in Sri Lanka, in your company, all companies in Sri Lanka, production goes up, sometimes coming down, sometimes goes up. That may be due to economic domestic reasons. That may be due to external economic reasons. That may be due to natural disaster like COVID or the flood. So therefore, the economy, real production is not always straightforward going like this dotted line. This is an average for longer period, but there's no country in the world moving on this dotted line. So therefore, circle is going up and down. So that is called business cycle. In this business cycle, where we are in a recession. We are now in recession. The bottom we are now in. So what are the features of recession? Fear and panic. Every business people feel fear. Every customer feel fear and panic. Whether the goods will be imported, whether our products will be banned for exports, whether the raw material we can get, or whether the market is stable, is it good time to invest or reinvest. So like that, the people feel fear and panic at a recession period. And second is demand and supply both are coming down. Sometimes demand coming down, sometimes supply coming down. But at a crisis, at a recession, both are coming down. And profit, business profit decline, you know that what happened last couple of months for your profit, because exports were banned by some countries. Due to the COVID lockdown, we could not export goods. So some period you had that, the business profits coming down. As I showed you, unemployment rate will increase and investment and price will fall during a recessionary situation. Now we are at a bottom. So what we call trough. Trough means the bottom period we are now in. So lowest point in the GDP and declining growth curve requires the fiscal and monetary policy. So, you know, government giving 5,000 or government giving low-cost loans and many things, because these are called fiscal and monetary policy adjustments. And what we actually see in this crisis situation, what is happening? Naturally, business people think on financial matters more than human relations at a crisis situation. If you are an entrepreneur, business owner, when there is a problem, first you think how I will get the money. What will happen to my money? How I can reinvest money? Who will buy our product? Where to find money? So the people always, business people, all the time think only about money, but not only money in your business. There are 4 factors you are using. There are 4 main areas you are using. One is you are using natural resources. What will happen to natural resources? You have to worry. And physical capital. What about your building? What about your vehicle? What about your assets, equipments, tools? These are called physical capital. And finance also matter. And labor and human resources. The most important thing at an economic crisis, you have to keep the good relationship with your workforce. Because money you can earn, but the best worker with you, best supporter at your business organization cannot replace. So therefore human relations, because as I told you, at a crisis level, at a recession level, you are panic. You are panic and fear. So don't take panic decisions. Don't take panic and fear decisions. What is the most important thing is keep the human relations a better way. This human relation part is very important, because advanced countries, you know, the developed countries, you know, the majority are well educated, well professional, so that they always patience. They see everything as patience. But particularly developing countries, you can see your employee may not be 100% your employees are highly educated or professional people. So as a result, when you are getting done something that you may feel, you may hurt, your word will hurt them sometimes at a crisis situation, because you are also in panic situation. And entire business activities, supply chain and demand depends on the human relations. So this is more important. How to keep the human relations. I should not panic and take decisions at an economic crisis. So that is very important thing. And careful comparisons between business practices and the skills, reading, listening to others, information collections are very important at a crisis level. Now we will revisit our main topic. What is that? Financial literacy. What are the key components of financial literacy? Number 1, basics of budgeting. You need to understand budgeting. You need to keep a record. Even micro enterprises you are running by only yourself. You are the owner. Maybe your family is supporting you. Sometimes it's a family business. Or even if a very small shop you are running, you need to keep records about how much money you spend, how much money you get. So that is called budgeting. So budgeting is very important thing. If you don't record, if you keep without recording, then there can be a memory lapse. You don't know what is you spend, you forget after certain time period. So therefore this basics of budgeting is very important. And understanding interest rates and exchange rates. How the interest rate movements, when you have money, how you are going for investing, whether you go for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year period, or it is very, very important. Now you see in Sri Lanka, longer period, people, when they have money, their main earning method was interest rate, keeping money in the bank. But this system, many people have understood, this system cannot go smoothly. So people must have access to profit rather than interest rate to reach a developed country. So therefore, in future, interest rate will come down. I hope that the people who manage the economy will understand disaster because of keeping high interest rate. The business owners cannot take loans. The best example I can give you is the Japan. If in Japan, usual people, when they deposit, the interest rate paid to depositors is less than 1%. But usual people who ask loan from the bank, if any micro business owner or the even SME owner asking interest rate from the bank, that is only 2% or 2.5% interest rate, people can take loans. That's why the rich countries, they have enough money so that they reinvest again. But in our countries, people don't reinvest again. They just keep in the bank money. Bank is giving that money to government as treasury bill. Then government pay huge amount of interest rate for others and use that money for day-to-day maintenance. So therefore, this economy cannot go longer. So what do we need? We need people like you, those who start business, those who are depending on the profit rather than interest rate. Unless we increase number of entrepreneurs from 2.3% of our labor force to 10% or 20%, Sri Lanka is no more going to be a developed country. So therefore, understanding these financial variables, where interest rate, how it is changing, exchange rate, how was the trend, what will happen in future, understanding is essential at an economic crisis situation. Prioritizing your savings is very important. People in Sri Lanka lavishly spend money. Consumption, they believe, a larger one. So as a result, the investment, we can't do it. So therefore, savings is very important. Credit debt circle trap. Don't get into this one. There are many business owners in Sri Lanka. Credit debt cycle trap, which means you get a loan, you cannot pay the loan because of you have not spent that in productive manner. Then what will happen? You have to take another loan to pay that loan. Some are taking loans from some other banks to pay the earlier loans. So that is called credit debt cycle trap. Identify theft issues and safety. This is also a very important area. Revisit financial activities in your organization. Earning methods, consumption patterns, then savings methods and investment philosophy, financial planning. How to change behavior of entrepreneurs as a business owner, how you can change in this situation, and how the government or the EDB or any institution can nudge their stakeholders at economic crisis. So the economic crisis can be arises due to natural disaster or the problems of human. Man-made disasters are there, natural disasters are there. Now say for example, COVID is man-made disaster, but flood or the tsunami is a natural disaster. Best way to overcome from an economic crisis is to change the human behavior. You have to change. Now the biggest problem in Sri Lankan context that people are very much reluctant to change. Reluctant to change. They don't like to change. But from tomorrow morning, you have to think. You have to think about changing. How can I change this situation? Go back to basics. That is the most important thing. Like what you had, the life skills, reading, listening, collecting information, participating webinar like this, reading books and what is happening in the world all the time. The economic matters are very important. Unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, there is a big vacuum in our media that even in the news, we did a research recently with my PhD candidate. We did a research that 6 largest television channels in Sri Lanka, from the news airtime, they allocate only 2% for economic and business matters. 90% of their time they allocate on politics and criticizing people, going to courts, history, and the something related to trouble, illegal, those things they spend more time rather than the educating people in terms of financial behavior, economic behavior, show the people direction in there. So this is, of course, we had a kind of lobbying. We started saying that at least 6% of news share time should be allocated for economic matters, discuss how to better off our people, how can we use financial analysis, and explain some experts. They can come to front and say what to do, how to invest, what will be the direction of interest rate, how we should do a financial investment. Everything is very, very important. So collecting information is very important, but unfortunately, the media in this country, they spend only very small news share time for the economic and financial matters. But in internet, in YouTube, for example, I'm running a YouTube channel, about 100 videos are there. I always emphasize whatever the knowledge I captured during last 30 years. And now I am trying to distribute that for ordinary people, general people, not limiting only to the university students. Of course, we educated university students, but more than that, I think the public opinion, we can influence more on economic and business matters to bring Sri Lanka into a very good platform, a developed country. Do not panic and improve your literacy. That's the most important. Rethink that how you forecast your interest rates, how you forecast on exchange rate. Think about those. How to overcome your business problems at an economic crisis. Think equally all factors of production. As I told you, human relations are very important, not only financial matters. Keep your best practices in human relations. This is another important aspect, because you know that best practices, what are the best practices you have used or others are using, then those are trying to practice at a crisis situation. Learn how to nudge your stakeholders, how you nudge, how you influence, how you go with your other stakeholders. So I'm not going to explain all this, but one of the important things during the crisis situation, what you have to see is your cost structure. What kind of cost your firm has, how much money going as in vain, or how much idle resources in your business, how you diversify it and use it, so that you can see sometimes for marketing, that regular visit to your target markets or provision of samples, and there may be many costs. So think about your cost structure, how to restructure your cost, minimize the cost. Now you can see there are, in a crisis situation, crisis can be divided into three. One is short term, mid term, and the long term. At a crisis situation, the crisis management is very important when the crisis is coming. Say on March, we got COVID. When the COVID came into Sri Lanka, we were in the first block here, the crisis management. But now after May 11th, the Sri Lanka could manage very well our crisis. Actually, it is kind of a success. I would say that it's kind of a very high success of Sri Lankans. We managed the COVID crisis. Then now we are here. This we are called recovery plan. Now each and every person, as an entrepreneur, as an employee, as an unemployed person, as a student in this country, we must think about recovery plan. How to recover? How can we go in? Actually, this you know, the exports have started increasing up to 1 billion it has reached now. So the important thing where we are here, the recovery plan, define the recovery plan, industry analysis is essential, customer analysis is essential, production analysis, as I told you, what are the idle resources, what are the resources you can use for more, operations analysis, and supply chain, how you link with supply chain, and all these are very, very important. Then the risk mitigation is for a long run plan that of course also our next year or the after another 1 quarter, we have to go for that. So what is the finally we need to do that when there is a crisis, when there's an economic crisis, of course you have to revisit your literacy. I told you the financial literacy is the most neglected part of component of the literacy in Sri Lanka. So what is another important aspect that if you want to come out from a crisis, what you need is that innovations. You need to have innovations. This is the #1 way you can come out from the crisis. Innovations can be in 5 types. New products, you can plan new product. You have to plan new product. And new markets, the searching new markets. How do you think new markets? Now you see these days the clay product has regained that many people think about, right? Because new market, actually market is in Sri Lanka. Market is in Sri Lanka. If all are using the tills for the roof rather than going into asbestos, the Sri Lanka has 21 million market. And how much we use the plastic, how much we use the aluminium. Of course, these are environmental, not friendly manner. These are against the sustainable development as well. But market in Sri Lanka can, of course, prosper. New product development is essential. And new market development, of course, niche market and new technology adaptation. Use as much as possible new technology when you are at an economic crisis. A new source of raw materials, that is very important. If you were producing same thing with maybe aluminium, then you can gradually shifting into some other raw material. And asbestos, you can shift into other ways. So therefore, innovation, particularly this innovation theory in economics introduced by the Joseph Schumpeter, that people can do many ways. There are innovations. Actually, innovations happen in crisis situations most of the time, because when we are having serious issues, we think about how to overcome that. So therefore, we think on the innovations. So as small business holders or potential business holders, now you know, basically due to COVID lockdown, people get into webinars, seminars, and internet, YouTube usage. Now the country like Australia, country like Japan, many people use YouTube because this is one of the new things. You can learn many things because you know, whatever you want, you can search now in internet. So therefore ICT knowledge, therefore this information technology knowledge is very, very important to do that. So what we can do that, we need to understand all these things. So finally, at conclusion, I'm going into conclusion. We are in an economic crisis situation. Now you have seen that. What do you mean by economic crisis? The continuous economic variables are going in downturn, particularly GDP growth, the total production growth going into a negative. And of course, then what is happening, simply the crisis situation, not only production going down, you know, people, they panic and take more decisions, spend more money, and then what they do that, basically, they go for panic decision making. So therefore, savings are very important. Reinvestment is very important. Diversification of investment is important, and understanding of all economic indices, not only just thinking monetary value, but you have to think about all other economic variables as well. The normal policies and actions are not effective during the crisis situation. That we have to understand. During the lockdown period, you can see people were blaming to banking system or the central bank. But you know, when the economy is closed down, this traditional monetary policy, fiscal policy doesn't work. What does it work? That the other, the unusual policy instruments. And when the economy is opened up, you can use these policies. Don't take panic decisions. That is one of my important explanation here. Decision making is very, very important for a manager. So what do you mean by panic decision here? Whatever you wish, don't do that. If you want to sell this, that you will sell. That is not. Why should I sell this? I have to ask from my friends. I have to ask from my neighbor. I have to get expert. I have to get consultant. What to do from here? So listen from many people, not taking decision by only yourself. Go back to fundamentals. It's what always economists say. When there is an economic crisis, all the time go back to fundamentals. Means that you need to develop your literacy. You need to develop your literacy. Means the information, data collection, data analysis, and finally take sound decisions with the good knowledge. So improve your financial literacy. So think how to incorporate these financial variables in your decision making. That is very important. And innovations are the best way to overcome crisis. So that is another important aspect. I think I explained some certain ideas on the economic crisis and others. Then, of course, I would like to accommodate, I think my time is over now, 45 minutes given to me. The questions I would like to get, and I would like to discuss with you, and I would like to answer for your questions as well. There are various questions coming here. One is saying that your statistics related to Q1, but situation in Q2 would be seen worse. I'm not sure the reality affects this data, as our important export partners are worse Q2. Or what is your view? So my understanding that I don't think of course export markets are in trouble, but in that sense you need to go for the local market unless you are getting the expansion in foreign market. That's what I told you. Find new markets, find new raw materials, adopt new technology, adopt different methods. The only thing, the most useful thing in a crisis is change. Reluctant to change doesn't work. How do we change is very important. But I do not agree with Japan as your example, as there are a lot of negative implications. That depends on, but in terms of financial literacy, people are of course they have their financial literacy, and the interest rate parity of course is 1%. The deposit, if you deposit money in Japan, of course it is less than 1% interest rate you can get. And if you take the loan, it is 2.5% is the maximum. That this I don't know whether you can understand, but my experience, because I've been in 13 years in Japan, I have taught 8 universities in Japan, and my last assignment was the University of Tokyo. I was teaching 2 years. Right. It was very interesting that your comments, debt loans, which Sri Lankans, what is your suggestion for the debt loans? Yeah, this is very, very important that you need to have financial planning if you are taking a loan. that financial planning, you have to have saving methods, and you have to have insurance method, all these, and think about basically how you take the loan. Many people, what do? That they go to Middle East. If you ask from the people who go to Middle East, why you are going to Middle East? In Sri Lankan context, they say, because we need seed capital. I'll find some money, come back and start a business. Actually, many people who have gone to other countries, they have brought their money. When they start businesses, they use that money, and sometimes they take big leasing, big loan, but they cannot pay back with their day-to-day earnings. So as a result, they become indebted. So therefore, this financial management, basically, even the lottery winners, 95% coming back to earlier situation or worse than earlier situation. Only 5% of lottery winners will success. Why? The reason is the financial literacy. Do they think about what will happen to interest rate, what will happen to exchange rate, what will happen to inflation rate? So these are very, very important things to take financial decisions. That's what my suggestion. And there are some other questions also. Improving the financial literacy is one of the challenging factors of SMEs in Sri Lanka. How to overcome that situation? Of course, the issue is that we need to discuss more. We need to have this kind of seminars, and we need to have financial planning sessions for SME holders. What are the strategies which you can use for uplift this crisis and become business success? So that's what I propose, that you should get ready to change. You have to think alternative way, talk to close by people, talk to many people, talk to experts, talk to consultants, get their ideas. The idea hunting is very important in a crisis situation. Don't take panic decisions only by yourself. Don't take fear decisions. Listen to others, read others, see others, what others are doing, how it is happening. Now you have the internet and YouTube and many things. You can get many things. So therefore, it is very important. What is the difference between market and niche market, referring to the innovation theory? Yes, market is any market you can find, but the niche market is very particular, high-end market, where you can earn more money if you create a niche market. So that's the difference between there. And there are some other questions asking. And actually, lived in Japan 35 years. I also got my PhD in Tsukuba. Anyway, thank you. I also used work EDB before I come here in Japan. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you very much for commenting. And thank you for commenting also. And yes, thank you. Thank you for many comments. Let's have a YouTube channel. Of course, you can have access to my YouTube channel. That is, of course, anyone can come to my YouTube channel. Just if you type H.D. Karu at yahoo.com, H.D. Karunaratne, then you will get the YouTube channel. So that is very, very important. And you can come to my channel. Now, I'd like to call Indrakirti and ask what is suggestion here. Indrakirti is here. Yes.
Yes, Professor. I was awaiting you. You have almost answered to the questions that the raised by participants, and some other questions around came from around us in different the modes. So there are some highlights. Really very interesting. The reluctant to change, idling resources, both physical and human resources are idling here and there, having big impact, negative impact on the economy, and the recovery plan and innovation theory. Very interesting. You said 4 times or 5 times, innovation theory is the number one way. And there are some observations that some statistics on GDP negative during the COVID and all, and agriculture products negative, then industrial negative, but services sector you can see the positive, right? So we cannot stay await things naturally to become your or turn this way. So have to work, and we have to strategize our plans, our plan of actions and all. So do you believe that the innovation theory will address those? If you
Yes, of course.
strategize the things based on the innovation theory.
Yes, of course, because when it is a crisis situation, I'm not talking about the normal situation. When we are at bottom of the economic cycle or the crisis situation, best theory is the innovation theory, because most of the innovations happen when people are in panic situations or people are in last resort situations, when people are having nothing to do, no other source, they think innovative. So the innovation theory has a chance to come within the bottom level. So therefore, I think best way, and we need to change. That's the important thing. The change is the number one at a crisis. So change, how do you manage your change is very important. Crisis management, change management, and these are very, very important things at a circle.
Thank you, Professor. And another question. Really, this is not a question, but your idea and your advice to our SME sector. Not many, the majority of the SME sector, we experience that their financial literacy is very low. And getting a risk, it is another matter to be addressed. And sometimes a business knowledge, but they have the capacity to invest, sometimes adequate, the capital. And what is your advice, not only to come up with the financial literacy, how the things to be improved in a, say, is a long term, there are, yes, but short term and the medium term, how it, it should be addressed by themselves as well as the others around them to support,
Yes,
especially
yes.
the banks and all.
Yes, that I told you first. Number one thing is the media. Media must change and communication must change. We need to give more productive things to people rather than giving some other political ideas or hatred. Never cease by hatred, right? So at a crisis situation, what the media should give more economic and financial matters for people and how to overcome this. So that is why we had a lobbying that at least allocate 6% of the news time for economic and financial matters. Educate the financial situation, all financial skills we need to provide. Of course, this is kind of a good way. And even now you see YouTube and social media people use, but general public, I think we need to address categorically with respect to this business and financial skills.
Yeah, Professor, 2 more questions we have. I think we have adequate time. Very simple question. Just to differentiate the financial disciplines and the financial literacy, how we should manage those things.
Yeah, it's very interesting question. The financial discipline, as I told you, that particularly when it comes to expenditure of the people, they have to rethink and plan and do the expenditure according to plans. Because the most of the time people don't adhere to plan when they are spending money. So therefore they lose their financial discipline. So once they lose their financial discipline, they get caught to all the time getting debt and repay the debt, again getting debt. So they are coming into trap. So the most important thing, they need to plan their expenses, and according to their plan, they have to spend money. So that is usual financial literacy, the thing that. So all the time, of course, you see when people are financially illiterate or less literate, what do? They take expenditure. Their expenditure is as they wish, anytime they spend. So this is the important thing in financial discipline.
Okay, doctor. Uh, Really, this is also something interesting for us and all our export community to have this kind of session. And finally, do you have any hands-on experience? That means you have the more than the 3 decades experience in your field, and the eminent professor that you have the experience in our society, overseas, and here and
Of
there,
course,
everywhere. Yeah,
of course, the
and
experience.
yeah, can we give us a good example just around us to see the develop with that the real financial literacy and financial disciplines and with the other factors as well.
Yeah, because you see, whatever you do, you can do innovations. These innovations play a crucial role. Say, for example, when I was in University of Tokyo, they told me that we want to have kind of a office in Sri Lanka to develop more university relationships. Then actually I accepted that. Now, apart from my university, now I am trying to link Sri Lankan universities into with the Japanese universities. This is my another kind of service I am doing to Sri Lanka, where Sri Lankan university scholars can join with Japanese scholars. We are facilitating, and now I am in the University of Tokyo Sri Lanka office. So why I do that? Because it is the gaining for Sri Lanka. And of course, there are many ideas, many Japanese stakeholders, many Japanese organizations are linked with us. So now, rather than stick to my research area, because my research area is business linkages, and if I directly say that it is kind of immigrant entrepreneurship, how Sri Lankans going abroad and doing business. During I was in Tokyo, I interviewed 316 Sri Lankan business people in Japan, and I have written a book as well. And I got their experience. I discussed with them what are the problems they have, how they started business in Japan, and how they link, so that my book conclude very interesting thing. Because when Sri Lankans going abroad, even government, even Sri Lankan people, they want only the money from Sri Lankans going abroad. They don't get the access to market. They don't get information on that country. They don't have closer linkages with the embassies and the Sri Lankans in other countries use. Assume, for example, now there are 3 million Sri Lankans out of the country. If one can motivate one person to come to Sri Lanka, 3 million tourists will come to Sri Lanka. How do we nudge? How do we touch all Sri Lankans in abroad? That is very important. We need to have linkages. Export development also same, where you need to link with actually Sri Lankans in abroad, not only foreigners in abroad. Then if we can strengthen this link, that is my research area. If we can strengthen this link, for example, the person doing business in Tokyo can send a spices order to Sri Lanka, rather than when I was in Japan, I understood that there are 140 Sri Lankan restaurants in Japan. If they buy spices from Sri Lanka, that is a very good thing. But some of them are buying spices from Tokyo, right? From Indian shops, from Pakistani shops. But I am referring that these business linkages we need to strengthen in future. So my research field has been very recent past was the immigrant entrepreneurs, those who are in abroad, how they link to mother country and how the mother country entrepreneurs link to them. You know how the India is even Bangalore, how the India is developing because expatriate Indians in America reinvest in India. That's the starting point. So we need to link with the foreigners. So that's what I did my presence in Japan. All the time I go to meet these people, and I conducted similar sessions in the Sri Lankan embassy in Japan, and we had a lot of gathering, and we did a lot of kind of relationship building. This is very important.
Thank you very much, Professor. Your experience and your knowledge that sharing with us and with our expert community. Really, we appreciate your participation voluntarily with the EDB, and we extremely appreciate the efforts you made to educate our people, our export community, considering this as a national effort. So thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Professor,
Thank you.
we hope to get your expertise to the EDB to support the export community in future. Really interesting and very impressive webinar today. I can see the positive responses of the participants. All appreciated your the way of the conducting your the webinar presentation. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for the participants being with us, and hope we have answered almost all your questions today, and we hope to have another webinar the next week, the same time, the Thursday at 2 o'clock. So thank you very much, participants. Please be with us for the betterment of the country, for the betterment of the economy. We will have our best efforts to educate you or to support you with this kind of webinars and other services of EDB. And thank you very much again, Professor, for your valuable time shared with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for.